Okay, today we're going to start talking about another one of those projects that I started before I was making videos. This particular one a long time before I was making videos. I think this project started, at least 5 years ago, and I call it my Bose Wave Radio Killer. Now first off, I know it's not a fair comparison to compare something that's a inexpensive-ish mass market radio that's mass-produced versus a custom one-off thing. I know that, but when people were asking what I was building, I didn't really have any better way of describing it than the Bose Wave Radio to end all Bose Wave radios. This is kind of the answer to the question nobody asked of if you were to build a portable-ish, again, not very portable maybe, but it's not a component stereo system. So if you were to build a portable radio, like a tabletop radio, as good as you can, what would that look like? And this is my attempt to answer that question that nobody asked. I'm going to zoom in and show you some of the specifics because like here, there's a whole bunch of pieces that are still going on to it. But to start off, the whole project was inspired by these square speakers. These were a Parts Express clearance item. I think they were like $6 a piece, and I just thought, oh, those are cool. I'm gonna order a few of those. So I ordered them and was like, okay, well, what would be good with that? So I just picked out these little Dayton tweeters, and then there's a purest subwoofer in the underside, I'll show you. And they just seem to complement each other nice. And that was just the inspiration behind the whole project. I was like, I want to build a radio with those little square speakers. So here's the result of the first bazillion hours. This will turn into a whole series where, when time allows, I'll do a little bit more work to it, maybe put up little videos here and there, and it will probably be a very multi-part series. So I'm going to zoom you in here and show you a few of the specifics and some of the things that I've done to make this the Bose Wave Radio Killer. Okay, first off, spinning around to the back side. Here is the power supply portion of it. You'll see what all this is for once I start showing you the amplifier portion. But we've got the power in down here, and that tees off, goes into this power supply, 36 volt, and also goes into this toroidal transformer that gives a plus minus, I don't even remember the voltage now because it's been in storage for the last 6 months, but voltage for the crossover network, which goes through this DC component. Also, coming off of this will provide straight the 36 volts for the subwoofer amp, and then it goes into a series of adjustable converters here, which will provide power for the mid-range amp, the tweeter amp, and I don't even remember why I had a third one, but there's something else, I promise. These are all the inputs. These go into the different speakers. I got 2 of these jumped already because these go to the square speakers, and these are just going to be hooked in series. Obviously everything's engine turned. Got a fancy ground here. Not a whole lot else to see there. Here's the port for the subwoofer, and I guess this is probably the best time to show you the subwoofer. So this is not attached yet. This engine turned piece on the front is not attached yet either. That's that piece. A little piece of stainless I made. Alright, let me get you a little better angle here. Okay, so here's the underside. Here's where the subwoofer lives. Here is the subwoofer. Obviously fits neatly right in here. I've got these feet that elevate it so it can fire down and also go through the port. Let me take the bottom off here and show you the inside chamber of the subwoofer component. You will see an ongoing theme of this is overbuilding, and that was kind of the whole point. It's like if I were to do a project and focus on every little part of it and make it as best as I can do anyway. I mean, obviously it's not the best anyone can do because I'm just a guy. But if I were to just say, basically no expense spared, what would I make? And this is gonna be the answer. This is taking forever. I'm gonna come back when I get all these screws out. Okay, now that I have carpal tunnel, The underside, not much to see there. So here's the inside. Let me bring you in a little closer. All right, so you see here's the port, and obviously tuned. And then I've got some different pieces of foam on here to keep the port itself from rattling around. Just the speaker wires coming in. You can see it is very well reinforced. This wire here doesn't go anywhere yet. I just ran an extra wire in case I wanted to hook something up in this front section here, like some kind of lighting or something. So that's the inside. I got some squishy weather stripping around here as well to help seal everything up. And as you saw, lots of long bolts going into threaded inserts. So that's where the subwoofer is going to live. It's about as good as Enclosure as you can cram into this small of a space. And I selected the subwoofer based on the characteristics of the enclosure it requires, which seems obvious to me now, but as a child I would select it based on the brand name and how cool the logo on the dust cap was. This is all just to be as loud and obnoxious in a small space as possible. So let me close the bottom back up and I'll show you the amplifier section. Okay, so this is where the amplifier section is going to go. And I have, as I said, crossover for left, crossover for right, a subwoofer amp, a stereo amp for the mids, and an amp for the tweeters. I don't remember all the watt specifications, I'd have to dig out the paperwork, but they're all amplifier boards made by Shure, and I'm making these individual little enclosures for them. So here's the subwoofer amp. It's 2-channel, I'm only going to be using 1 channel. That was just the easiest way to do it, and if I ever blow it out, I can maybe switch to the other channel. So as you can see, I'm kind of going with a mid-century modern / Art Deco kind of feel here. Got 2 different colored stains on curly maple with an aluminum polished plate in between them. The metal on the bottom I have painted in a wrinkle finish. And that's how it's all put together. These are the holes to actually mount it to the amp. So there's the sub amp. Here's the amp for the mids. Same basic setup. It's the same dimensions side by side, but it's not quite as tall because it doesn't have the fan. Here's the tweeter amp, a little tiny amp. I think this one's only like 8 watts by 2 or something. Doesn't take much to run the tweeters. In fact, probably the entire frequency range of those tweeters is out of my hearing range because I'm pretty much deaf from playing in metal bands. And then I got these 2 crossovers from KMT out of the UK. And these just come as plain boards. I ordered the components. The sound will go into these. It will divide it to each of the powered amps. And I did it that way rather than just have a big stereo amp going through a regular speaker crossover. Why? Because I'm doing everything completely crazy. That's kind of the only point. There's the other crossover. So these are the 5 main components that are going to be attached up here. I'm still trying to figure out what kind of cover is going to go on here because each one is going to have little banana plugs, and those are going to connect up all the speaker connections and the power connections. For the RCA connections, I've made up a bunch of these leads with some little coax, and these will be mounted in the case and be wired directly to the board. You probably noticed, if you've seen these boards before, I desoldered the RCA inputs and the terminal strips and all that stuff that was not going to be needed. And these are just going to be soldered directly to the board. But a few of the mock-ups I've tried for cover, this is one I've kind of messed with out of stainless. It would go over it like that and then have some sort of a grill there for letting the air go through, but I don't know. There's endless ways to do it. I just have to decide on one. Another way I'd looked at it was doing something like having a couple pieces like that. They could attach. And then I got this little flange here that I could attach mesh to. I don't know. Lots of ideas. I've only been thinking about it for 5 years, so why would I have any answers yet? So I'm still trying to figure out arrangement. You know, at first I figured I'd do something like have, you know, something like that. I still need to have controls though. Got a subwoofer level control that plugs into the sub amp. Got a little USB jack I'm going to use to power, you know, smartphones or MP3 players or whatever. Got some little headphone style jacks for putting in sound. I've got a Russian military surplus selector switch for selecting the channel, or the source, I should say. So somewhere I need to have a panel with all of these controls, and there will also be individual level controls for the mids and the tweeters, as well as a master volume. And I'll probably have some form of lighting on here. I was gonna do neon lighting in these, but I'm kind of worried about the high voltage creating a interference problem with the sound, so I might have to resort to LED. But I want to have a knob to control the brightness of that, so you don't turn it on at night and it just lights up the whole room. So for that, I was thinking of maybe doing something like have those two here, these three here, and the controls down the center. I don't know. Again, I've only had 5 years to think about this. What makes you think I'd have an answer? All the wiring is going to be done with this cloth covered wire. Just kind of keep it old school. RCA plugs, I think I'm going to make them from scratch. I got a bag of just the jacks themselves, and I've been experimenting making some different housings on the lathe. So once I figure something out, I will turn those all out and get them polished. Oh yeah, how could I forget this? One possibility, I haven't decided if it's going to be used or not, was a tube preamp. I don't think it's necessary, but it would just look cool to have a tube. And that's originally what this space here was going to be for, so I could mount the tube there. And here is the tube socket. And I have the board, which is just a generic Chinese tube preamp board. I've removed the socket and added pigtails to extend it. And then created a tube holder that would go right up front there and look like a spider. So I made this little maple and walnut spider body. And yes, I know Black Widow spiders, the hourglass is on the underside, not the outside. But everyone does it this way, so I might as well do it too. And a little gold-plated tube socket. And then these would be the spider legs, and they can just be bent to look like it's crawling up the front of here. I posted some pictures of this when I did it, and people really reacted to it. They really liked the idea, but I'm just not sure if we want to add the complication of a tube preamp to all these solid-state amps. Then I'd have to come up with some more voltages, and I already have so many different voltages. What, already I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different voltages. I have an alternate idea of using this piece and having like Nixie tube, those long skinny tubes, and they kind of, you can rig them up like VU meters, but I don't know. I made this nice little frame for something, you know, beautiful, center of attention, and then basically scrapped all my ideas. This is basically going together one piece at a time. I have an idea, I put it together, and then I go from there. This is not all planned out ahead of time. It's just not one of those projects. It's more an ongoing representation of me and my crazy thoughts. And the last bit to talk about, the inputs for this, I'm going to have the selector switch choose between Bluetooth, a few different RCA inputs, a couple of those little like headphone jack inputs, and AM radio. No FM. There's nothing on FM I care to listen to, and the only thing I ever listen to on AM is NPR. It seems a little crazy to build a radio like this and then listen to talk radio, but I thought it'd be kind of cool to have the knob, and you would say, you know, input 1, input 2, input 3, Bluetooth, and then NPR. If there'd be no AM dial on the front, there would just be a potentiometer in the back somewhere that you could tweak in NPR, and that would be the only broadcast radio option. And I just thought that was both everything I need and just ridiculous enough that it would make people talk. So I've been experimenting on the AM radio circuit. It's not going great. Sometimes I can hook up the battery to this and, you know, touch the wires somewhere, and NPR comes in, and then I let go and it goes away. And radio's a complicated thing. It shouldn't be, because it hasn't been changed in so many years. But you know, these days you can't really buy too many AM radio things because nobody's building them. You know, you can buy one little chip and it does AM, FM, digital radio, and everything else, and I just want AM, but building it from scratch because of course I am. So I think that's everything. I hope so, because this video is already an epic. So there you have it. Hope you enjoyed it. I will be putting up more little videos as I do individual projects for this. But as of now, at least you've got an overall view of what the Bose Wave Radio Killer is going to be. And there's going to be hopefully a lot of fun stuff to go with it. There's going to be some electronic stuff, which I know you're probably all bored of now because it's all I've been putting up for a while. But there's going to be some machining stuff. There's going to be woodworking stuff. Just kind of all of my disciplines that I'm into are all going to be going into this. So that makes it fun for me and fun for videos, I hope. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.